Today what we're going to do is continue to talk about multiplying and dividing decimals. First week what we did was we added decimals. The second week what we did was we multiplied decimals. Third week we divided decimals. And this is the fourth week. What we're going to try to do is show you how the application of all of these things, you might have to apply all of the things that we've talked about for the previous 3 weeks. So let's just jump right into it. Let's take a look at our first problem of the day. All right, so what we have is we have a problem where it's a percent problem. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. That should say week 4, okay? But it's a percent problem. And what we're going to do is we're going to take 20% of 48. And what we're going to also do is we're going to do that in more than one way. Apply mastery level understanding. Mastery level understanding. So the first thing I'd like to show you is it's going to be very important that we know how to turn a percent into a decimal. All right, because for the last couple of weeks we've been multiplying decimals. We've been dividing decimals. So a percent, another way of writing a percent is in the form of a decimal. So for the first couple of problems, what we're going to do is show you how to convert from a percent to a decimal. Let's take a look. So if you have, let's say 50%, what I'd like you to do is to convert that 50% into a decimal. You just take the 50 is the same thing as 50.0, and you're just going to move the decimal over 2 places. So another way to write 50% is a decimal 0.5. If you have 75%, another way to write 75%, that's 75.0. 75 is the same thing as 75.0. So you move the decimal over 2. Another way to write 75% is 0.75. If you have 6.3%, you got 6.3%, you move the decimal, you want to convert that to a decimal, you just move the decimal place back 2, and you end up with 0.063. All right, so that's going to be the first step in a lot of these conversion problems where you're working with percents. Turn the percent into a decimal, and then you'll discover that in terms of multiplying decimals and dividing decimals, we're going to follow the same steps that we did in the last couple of weeks. Let's proceed with this problem. All right, so what we have is we have 20% of 48. 20% of 48, what we're going to do is take 48 times the decimal equivalent of 20%. Move the decimal point over 2 places. Move the decimal place over 2 places. That's 0.2. And then you just multiply like we did last week. You get 8 times 2 is 16. Carry the 1, you get 9. All right. And then you have no decimals up here. You have 1 decimal place there. You add those decimal places together, you get 1 decimal place. And you're going to end up moving your final answer 1 decimal place over, and you end up with 9.6. Final answer. All right, so now let's finish this problem. All right, so we had 20% of 48 is 9.6. All right, so if you have $48, and you want to loan someone 20% of that money, how much will you loan them? $9.60. All right, so mastery level understanding of that same problem is to utilize proportions. All right, so think of, I'll just say is top. We're going to set up a proportion where the number associated with is going to be on the top, and the number associated with of is on the bottom. Just think of the word, just say is top. That'll help you remember. Once again, the number associated with is going on the top. The number associated with of is going to go on the bottom. All right, so in addition to that, in addition to remembering where the number associated with is goes, I'd also like to show you how to convert a percent into a fraction. Over here, we showed you how to convert a percent into a decimal. I'd like to also, for this second method, I'd like to show you how to convert a percent into a fraction. All right, so 50% is the same thing as 0.5, but 50% is also the same thing as 50 over 100. All right, percent means something over 100. All right, 75% is the same thing as 0.75, but 75% in terms of a percent is always something over 100. So that's 75 over 100. All right, so with this second method, I'm going to ask you to be able to turn a percent into a fraction, not a decimal. All right, 6.3%. Percent is always something out of 100. You're going to take 6.3 over 100. Okay, so for this second method, I'm going to ask you to turn the percent into a fraction, not a decimal. All right, so let's show mastery level understanding where we turn 20%, we figure out what 20% of 48 is. All right, so we start with the 20%. With this second method, I'd like you to turn it into a fraction. That's 20 over 100. You set up a proportion is equal to, you can, now this is where you use what we said before. Whatever number is associated with is goes on the top. Whatever number is associated with of goes on the bottom. All right, so 20%, we dealt with that already, of 48. I told you anything associated with of goes on the bottom. So you put the 48 at the bottom. Of 48 is something that you don't know. The is goes on the top, and it's unknown for this particular problem. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cross multiply. We end up with 100x is equal to 48 times 20. Well, 48 times 2 is 16. Carry the 1. You get 96. So 48 times 20 is 960. So you get I cross multiplied. 100 times x is equal to 960. All right. And then you're going to solve for x by dividing 100 on both sides. Dividing 100 on both sides, you end up with x is equal to 100 divided by, 960 divided by 100, and you get the same 9.6. All right, same 9 point. You got 9.6 here, 9.6 here. Mastery level understanding.